Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Mediocre Trader here, and in this video we're going to talk about the trading platform that I use, indicators that I use, and let's see where that takes us. Let's get into the video. Okay, so to start things off, let's talk about what brokerage I use. I use Charles Schwab for the specific reason that I trade on Thinkorswim, the desktop version of Thinkorswim, which, in my opinion, is the best version to trade on. And Thinkorswim, by far, to me, is the best trading platform on the market out there over all of them. It's a little older, but it does a lot more than some of the other trading platforms out there, right? So that's why I choose Charles Schwab and Thinkorswim. I've been trading on Thinkorswim before it was Charles Schwab. So there's that. Let's get right into this. Let's talk about charting, right? More importantly, the price axis. I choose to trade on linear rather than trade on logarithmic. And the reason for that is I tend to trade short term, right? I'm not a long term hold share type of guy. That's just not what I do. I'm a trader, whether it's day trading, swing traded. There's different versions of trading. Mostly, I'm an options trader. But I do trade equities when need to be. Like if I end up with shares of a stock, that's what I got. So the next thing that we'll talk about is indicators. What are the indicators that I use? The most important indicator for me, and I think all of you, should be volume. Volume is the most important indicator for me because it tells me people who are buying, right? It shows me, are people buying? Are people selling? What is the volume doing? So volume for me is key, number one. The second indicator that I really like to use is RSI, the Relative Strength Index. I think is a great indicator if you use properly and understand how it works, right? So, maybe I can do some videos on indicators later on, but right now I'm just talking about what I use and why I use it. So I use RSI because it shows me the relative strength of the stock. If we're still buying or if we're in a selling or vice versa. The next thing I'd like to talk about, and one of my favorite of all indicators, is the MACD, or MACD, or whatever you might call it. I call it MACD. That is one of my favorite indicators, and you're going to get a lot of information from that. We'll talk about that. I don't want to go into great detail about it right now, but we could talk about that later on. And another indicator that I like is vortex indicator, which gives me a little bit quicker response that I've noticed over the MACD. I like to use them together. So, I tie them together. I check both, but I think they're both really good indicators. If you don't like MACD, you could use vortex. They're kind of interchangeable. I prefer MACD for my own reasons, but I have vortex on my chart because I like to visually see both. There are a couple of other indicators that I use, but they're not constantly on my chart. I turn them off and on as I need them. One of the main ones that I use for that is mostly I use for doing technical analysis. Like I'll do it on the weekend. I'll set up. I'll look at my charts and see what I think. But that indicator is volume profile. I like volume profile. It helps me understand support and resistance levels of an equity. So that's also a good indicator that I like to use. And the other indicator that I really like to use is average true range, which helps you understand where a stock could be going in a intraday type of situation, because I trade intraday. Intraday time frames, is mostly where I tend to keep my trading, and that's really what I got. So let me just jump over here. I'm going to show you my chart and show you what it looks like on my chart. All right. With all that said, let's move over here to the chart and get into this, and we'll talk about indicators on the chart. First and foremost here, we've got volume, and our volume sticks, right? And so when you have a peak in volume and the sticks get smaller, that's a decrease. I look for that. That's when I know volume's dying off. I'm not going to get into great detail, but vice versa, when you have it climbing up like this, volume tells you what the buying pressure is like. So that's one of the main indicators I use. Okay, now let's talk about the RSI, since we're talking about it right here. Let's talk specifically the RSI line. All right, so as the stock is being purchased and bought up, the RSI line is going to head up towards the 80 line, and I use 80-20 on my RSI. Some people use 70-30. I choose 80-20. But when my RSI gets to 80 or above, I know it's overbought. Okay? And vice versa. When it gets to 20 or below, I know it's oversold. That's basically how I use RSI. So moving on, let's talk about the MACD. Okay? This is by far one of my favorite indicators. I'm looking for, this histogram here. We get bullish histogram, and then you get your bearish histogram. It goes through cycles, right? But when I see a cross on the MACD, it tends to move up, and I'm looking at these crossing actions is what matters to me. Like I said, I trade intraday, 3-minute, 5-minute, 15-minute, half-hour, 4-hour charts, right? Really, the charts that I trade. I also look at the daily, but mostly from a technical analysis standpoint. But this is how I use MACD. Now, MACD is great, and some people don't really care for it. A lot of people use Vortex indicator, which is similar to MACD, but just done with 2 lines. And I like it. Sometimes it responds quicker than the MACD. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes it does. So I like Vortex indicator as well. And that's what that looks like. That's really all that I have for this video. I hope that you enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe to the video, comment down below, and we'll see you in the next one.